Hello, my name is Little J, and this is Big R, and let's get right into the news.
So do you know what the Hall of Fame could really use? Another great president. And who better to induct than one and only James Monroe? Well, you see, James Monroe was responsible for helping with the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine is basically a piece of legislature introduced by Monroe. It was originally written by John Adams, and this was meant to dissuade all European countries from interfering in the Western Hemisphere. This is still a part of our foreign policy today, and we see it in the age of imperialism a lot. And even now, it's still relevant. He also brought about the era of good feelings. This is a really good era for us. It meant during this era we were really, really happy. It was immediately after the War of 1812. He even prolonged it by inducting both members of his party and the Federalists into the executive appointments, which helped create some positive relations between the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, and allowed us to closely follow Washington's farewell address, because he specifically stated that there should be no political parties. James Monroe also bought Florida with the Adams-Onis Treaty. This, in turn, helped make disputes between Spain and the U.S. over the border of Texas and Florida more favorable. This helped the Spanish become trading partners and somewhat allies in the grand scheme of things. But don't believe us. Don't believe that he is a good president. Listen to this completely random stranger that we found online.
So you got it started?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna ask you, do you think James Monroe should be inducted into a History Hall of Fame?
Monroe. So, I mean, I don't think he's the biggest and most influential president of all time. We have the fact that he was the president during the era of good feeling, so he did a good job of making sure the country was on steady path there. Famous for the Monroe Doctrine, but he didn't actually write that. That was written and was large part influenced by John Quincy Adams. So on one hand, did a good job, didn't really get us into any spats, no major wars during the time. Can't really think of any major legislation that came out with him. You have the expansion, westward. I think Florida became a state during that time.
Yeah, Adams-Onis bill.
Yes. But if you compare him to some of our other major presidents, I mean, would I be upset if he was in there? No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought she was paying.
Dude, we're live.
What? Yeah. So as you can see, our not paid actor who took our money didn't do anything with it. She says, okay. So she said that it was fine, and that she wouldn't care. That means he is amazing, and he should be inducted, because that's teacher speak for you. All right. You got that?
Do you know what's better than the Hall of Fame? The Hall of Shame. And the best person to drop in the shameful shame hall is Herbert Hoover. Who's Herbert Hoover? Well, after the stock market crashed, Hoover tried many things to help keep money in everyone's pocket. Unfortunately, none of these approaches helped the foundering economy. And Hoover watched helplessly while businesses closed their doors and Americans sank into poverty. Also, because of the stock market crash, people started to feel the inflation take effect. This led to many banks and businesses failing. At times, nearly 1 in 4 people in the U.S. workforce were unemployed. Millions of people lost their homes and savings. The homeless moved to the slums and called their houses Hoovervilles to mock the presidents for not doing anything to help the common man. He also made a critical mistake in signing into law the Smoot-Hawley Act, which raised taxes on imports and prompted foreign nations to turn their backs on American-made goods when the country desperately needed sales. Despite an undeserved, fallacious, but enduring reputation as a do-nothing who simply accepted the Depression as an unpleasant fact of economic life that simply must be endured, Hoover applied a conservative, business-oriented approach that stressed voluntary efforts by Americans rather than governmental interference in the economy.
what he tried was unsuccessful and sometimes poorly handled. And we're not the only ones who think that Hoover deserves to be shamed. Listen to this totally not paid actor.
Do you think Herbert Hoover should be in the Hall of Shame?
Hoover? Who's that? Oh, that one trash president. Yes, he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Shame. People walked around with their Hoover flags, which is basically their pockets sticking out. This guy totally deserves to be in the Hall of Shame. My God, he was horrible.
How come your act was better than mine?
Dude, I only gave her a small loan of $1 million.
I just gave him Fortnite Season Pass.
Oh, as you can see, this completely paid stranger that we found on the street totally agrees with us, and that's why Herbert Hoover should be in the shameful shame hall of shameness.
Shame.
Shame on you, Herbert. Shame on you. Now on to world news.
I thought she was paid. Dude, relax. Oh, what the? Oh, all right. I probably shouldn't have thrown the mic.
That we found online. And then edit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Pause that.
I think it needs to go faster.
Too slow, yeah.
I was like, oh god, I gotta improv a lot here.
Do you want to do it again?
No, I think it ended up weird.
Okay. Just pause that.
Deleted.